Hey everybody, welcome back to the Baseball Podcast. Today we've got a special guest, Matt Tallarini of the World Baseball Network. He's got his own podcast called Baseball Without Borders. He's a super knowledgeable guy just about baseball around the world, and not just, the big leagues like NPB or KBO. He knows about everything, Nicaragua, and, all the countries that don't get as much hype, in social media and all. So it's a really cool conversation with Matt telling us kind of about baseball all around the world, a lot of the history of it too, and just what makes that special. So he's a great follow. He's a guy who kind of just knows a lot about everything. So definitely make sure to go give him a follow at Matty Talls on Twitter, and you can check out his website, worldbaseballnetwork.com, or actually I think it's worldbaseball.com. And so go give him a follow and check out his podcast, Baseball Without Borders. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy our conversation with Matt, and here goes. Welcome back to the Baseball Podcast. We're here with Matt Tallarini of the World Baseball Network. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay, so my name is Matt Tallarini. I'm a Chief Correspondent with World Baseball Network, pretty much the founder of the media entity itself. We are an e-commerce business distributing just more centralization with the sport itself. We do coverage with the winter leagues, the Asian leagues that happen in the midst of the major league season. Mexico has a big structured league, so we try to give the outreach that there is professional baseball that you can cater to yourselves outside of Major League Baseball. And it's a great affair to see what the coverage we're seeing now. I mean, there's guys entering their collegiate season now at prestigious and Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO, NAIA establishments. So, it's cool to see this time frame that baseball's around. It's at the click of your hands, the World Wide Web with the ESPN Plus and everything. And it's cool to know that with what I've been creating the last few years, I started the inception period in December of 2021. We were accredited for the Caribbean Series. That's a final between club league teams that win out of their respectable leagues from other countries. We did the NCAA Division I College World Series. Ole Miss won it all there. So shout out to Mike Bianco in case anybody from Ole Miss is listening around this time. We did the MLB draft combine last year that helped us get into the MLB credential pool slate right now, and what we're dealing with the World Baseball Classic. So it's been a great journey. I've played the sport all my life. I played since T-ball, and I couldn't ask for any more outreach after my collegiate career, my semi-pro career. I was a relief pitcher for the Pelham Mets after I played at Mitchell College for 2 years. And I've been blessed to see where the game is going. I mean, it's an open door thread. I'll say you interact with people from, federation presidents of other countries, and they say, wow, you really are trying to centralize the sport. But not only that, just make it an easy access to people, seeing other leagues, seeing other pro leagues that aren't just Major League Baseball. You're going to see that in the World Baseball Classic. There's so many leagues to blossom that, I mean, you might as well get into international baseball now. It's the best time frame in what we have with COVID. And with COVID, I saw a lot of Korea Baseball Organization games starting early dawn of day mornings. Nicaragua didn't stop. They got a league down there that's spring summer alignment. They've had stream video stuff on YouTube. And Taiwan had a league then. Major League Baseball only had 60 games. And I was just, through and thin with where Major League Baseball is going. We're seeing that now. They're trying to add more offense, watering the bases. I mean, pitch clock's going to happen also in the minor leagues. I mean, there's just a lot of technology abundance that Major League Baseball is adding. But a lot of these leagues you can get into, all these pro leagues still have the old flavor of Major League Baseball. So it's kind of good to catastrophe with that. If you watch Japan, you see small ball, you see ABC baseball that's more distributed than when you watch a Major League Baseball game. You don't really see bunting and all the small ball tactics, or even certain clutch hits. It's all home runs. It feels like when we watch a Major League game. So I'm just enjoying, seeing where the sport is going to grow from this. I mean, it's cool we got Sean Spradling giving us all the World Baseball Classic info. Like
Yeah.
I
he's
know, right?
centralizing everything he can do. So shout out to him, and he's been a great contributor for the international baseball circuit for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
thankful. Thanks for having me on, guys. It means a lot, and look forward to what the future holds.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, this idea of sort of going, there's great baseball being played all over the world. So let's try and get it all in one place. And like you said, you started this group chat where people, who are working with baseball all around the world can get involved. What kind of started you? Was it just the pandemic and the lack of Major League Baseball, or what sort of started you being like, all right, there's cool baseball out there that people don't know about?
Yeah, it's kind of both crossover. I mean, a lot of Facebook groups, if you're not recreational with how like posting was then, I was kind of in a crossover in my career switch. I also went back to school to get my master's
Right.
at college. So I was kind of in like a certain middle time frame. Me and my dad, we operate a property management firm here in we
Oh
operate
boy.
all distribution center with certain commercial end tenants. So bit of a boatload to just contribute on this side and relic with where baseball's going. I mean, it's at the palm of your hands. I mean, it's a time convenience of where you want to see the sport. MLB Pipeline, there's 7 websites for that. Baseball America's been around since in the early 1980s. So it's only going to grow to have World Baseball Network on the facelift of where you can have a centralized end of stats and make it accessible for people just to know about these guys that are coming out of the minor leagues, the independent MLB partnership leagues we're seeing, and all the international league scouting is getting big. And yeah, it's just a fun engagement to just keep growing at it, honestly.
So do you cover countries where obviously, you said Nicaragua and stuff, and they have their own leagues. Do you cover countries at all that don't really have a baseball scene at all, but are trying to grow maybe?
Yeah, well, so the United League, the Baseball United League, shout out to Mariano Rivera. They're pushing a lot of stats into that, and so is Barry Larkin. He's involved in that league, and yeah, there's just a lot of pretty much a lot of people want to grow the sport, but there's a lot of barriers you gotta go in between finances, sponsorships, what you cater to the fan amenity experience. The league in Dubai, which is going to start probably this year or the following end of probably January 2024. It's going to be a lot of leagues are trying to form pool setting players that are ex Division One players, guys that got released out of the draft league, MLB partnership draft league, or certain MLB partnership leagues. Guys that played in Europe, top end competitive leagues in the Netherlands, Spain, Italy too. They've had a good amount of baseball the last 40 years, but nobody knows because it's not like abstracted metrics of what they see with Major League Baseball and what's on our home soil. But we're in a technology rotunda. I mean, got Twitter, you can follow 5 different perfect game pages at once. Baseball Factory, it's all there. That is going to grow. But yeah, Baseball United, they were going to plan on bringing certain regular season games to a cricket stadium, one of their national cricket stadiums in Dubai. And it's going to keep blossoming with where these countries are going to angle. But it's all about the derivatives. It's what you can get, in the financial side of thing and what you can produce side of things and what you can produce on also the product, let alone if you like the Savannah Bananas, does it cater to you to like real baseball or maybe circuit baseball, circus and circuit baseball that a lot of these guys could play rookie ball after Division One schools and they went on to play with the Savannah Bananas. But it's a different element. The fans get in the game if they catch a foul ball when Savannah's hitting, it's an out.
Right.
So there's just a lot of ways you gotta promote the game. It's only get interesting of what Major League Baseball is doing, but they've had other tests, to do all that in the minor leagues. So it's just, like the last 3 years before the realignment, they knew this pitch clock was going to come, like without a doubt. And then you got the Professional Baseball Association agreements too from the November of 2019. If COVID never happened, you still would have had a minor league season, but you don't have two different tiers of single A. You don't have short season. You don't have a mid-season amount of games in single A. It's just complex league and you're up. Low A, high A. It's a totally different game of where the sport is going to grow. And I think that steps in for other countries to step in with professional baseball that if you're not going to have a lower end of teams, amount of teams, that are at that lower level of professional baseball, five, single A held guys, let alone with those amount of teams, it's not going to go your way with where talent pool is going to happen. But who knows? I think it's big to follow the draft league. I think it's big to follow if you can. Certain Japan independent leagues. The Shiku Island League is big. Recommend getting into that. It's a good independent league. So just dig your Google Chrome Fortress in there. You can translate. Right. Baseball Challenge League in Japan. Those are really good players out there. Some have played in the Dominican Republic. They just started a new summer league in the Dominican Republic called Liga Verano. It's going to be run by their federation. They started it last year. And certain crossover guys that are going to play in the main Dominican League in the winter. So the abundance of professional baseball, it's growing. There's no hidden deal that it's not. It's spotty. I mean, shout out to people that get the information of the World Baseball Classic announcements. It's hard. It's really hard to see through this. And it's a play. You join agent links. It's a lot of just a lot of stuff you got to do on a smart tech daily basis deal to see where the tracking is. So it's cool to be a part of this. But I wouldn't trade for the rest of the world, honestly, to be in this position right now.
All right, cool. Well, you mentioned a couple of things that I want to ask a couple more questions about. Inquiring minds want to know. You mentioned the draft league, and I think was it the Baseball United League? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, that's in Dubai. So
okay.
Yeah, I'll give you certain research stuff on that right now. And it's a good league. A lot of advisors are going to really try to get ex-MLB partnership guys or guys that were hung in the winter leagues for this past season. So if you watch the Caribbean series, Curacao built a team with 3 professional players that are outside, not from the island of Curacao. But they are building a professional league in 2023-2024, but it's only going to have invitee establishments from their federation of the leagues they run in Curacao that go to the Caribbean Series next year in Miami. So the bridges with Baseball United, it's going to be a funnel of scouting through all these leagues that are happening. The Caribbean Cup just happened in the Bahamas in December, so you had guys from Cuba that are on the Elite League, but the only way they're going to have to go about their major league careers is if they leave the island. I mean, now it's opening up with we're seeing with the World Baseball Classic, they're allowing major leaguers to play with Cuba. First time that wasn't a thing in 1960. So the Caribbean Series had 2. This is a fun fact deal. So the Caribbean Series had 2 editions. From 1949 to 1960, it was 4 teams. It was Cuba, Panama, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. So the history on that is that a club circuit, type of tournament, you're going to draw a certain amount of fans and different sponsorships. And in that time frame, Panama, they were a U.S. territory at the time. So they drew more of the teams they brought to the Caribbean Series, most American players. Little did we know that, 1950, they squeaked in a championship and won. The Cartagena Yankees. They didn't get a Caribbean Series title until 2019 when they were on home soil in their line Pro Base Panama League. The same year, Mariano wins or gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. 2019, Mariano gets inducted a few weeks before. Panama wins the Caribbean Series in 2019, but they held the stadium with this Estadio Rock Peru because have certain economic alignments for their Caribbean series. So they had to pull out, and Panama, Cuba was the last year they played in 2019 before this year in 2023. But yeah, I mean, the scouting of where professional baseball is going to amount to where we learn that the history of international baseball dates back so long. It doesn't date back to this present time frame.
Mm-hmm.
We've had tours in Japan in the 1930s, late 1920s. South Korea, a major league barnstorming circuit was going on then in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is only going to get big if we reach out the history to these countries and give them a platform. And that's what World Baseball Network's doing. We're giving
Right.
a platform to these countries that have history of America's pastime.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all in it together in one centralized community who doesn't want that to put facelift. And yeah, it's only going to keep growing for the English fans to know about how good the Caribbean series was. The Inter-Americana series. It's another prestigious Latin tournament. The Latin American series folded from 2014 to 2019.
Ooh.
Nicaragua played in that tournament. They've never been invited into the Caribbean series in the history of international baseball. So it's a huge amount of stuff. And, it's all about absorbing what you love. And outside of Major League Baseball, I see the news of, John Morosi. I mean, there's so much key stuff to talk about in today's game and the love for international baseball. But with baseball, how's it going to continue that path? You got Mariano Rivera behind me, but
yeah,
he was living through the trenches. I mean, in Panama, he had to make his legacy right through and then. El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, Levon Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the stories you hear that are so triumphant in international baseball and the players that land to a major league field doesn't amount to what we see in the United States, the blue-collar American that tries to make his way through, certain barnstorming leagues. Dizzy Dean dominating these barnstorming leagues in the 30s. That tail period of the Gas House game from that time frame. I mean, it's in our blood too, but we got to share the game while we win this. And I think we should go and expand the horizon of all this information on one sword.
So where exactly does your website fit into this? So we know like the goal of spreading international baseball and all that, but what exactly do you do then? Like articles, interviews, that kind of thing.
The part of the incentive game is that you got to push the advertising. What it is to this is the breakage of what people love about a sport is that we want to distribute the news that Major League Baseball doesn't distribute. With the World Baseball Classic commitments, the WBSC events that happen that are all in different region circuit websites. So WBSC, it's all moduled into like WBSCamericas.org, WBSCAfrica.org, WBSCAsia.org. So it's regional to people that, if you follow international baseball and you love World Baseball Network, we'll give you that information centralized. So I think it's a big dwindle of like what we're trying to do with the baseball community itself, the international baseball community, let alone regions here in the States, regions here in Canada, that, they wake up and it's single digit degrees and we give them happiness of there's baseball in the Dominican Republic in late October after the final out of the World Series, Puerto Rico, Curacao next year, Venezuela, and Mexico. So it's just to give that reach that when the final out of the World Series happens, baseball is not over. It is 24/7, nonstop. I mean, there's scout leagues down south that get certain reputation you can follow too. In Florida, in warmer climate areas, baseball is never done in this, technical renaissance we're in. So it's cool to see that the growth of baseball will only get bigger from what World Baseball Network is capable of doing.
So what are the countries that you think are going to be the next big ones on the scene, So
I think Brazil, I think they got a shot to really have a lot of talent. Jan Gomes, he's like their pioneer guy. So
Yeah.
he's like their unicorn. So I think Brazil has what it takes. They have a huge Japanese communities, all across Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, and certain other cities as well in Brazil. So it's going to grow in that country. Argentina is number one in the world in softball. So you have biomechanic revelations of
Right.
how Argentina can be good. I mean, if you're good, if you're number one in softball for certain periods of the ranking alignment in the World Baseball Softball Confederation, you definitely have a shot to be inside, the WBSC America standard. But it's tough. I mean, you're dealing with age groups that are, lopsided. I mean, Cuba's good. Dominican Republic's good. They just don't have the certain finances to back, go to the U18s or the U23s from this part-time frame. And you got to
Is this still softball, or are we talking about their baseball programs here?
So the U18, this is baseball now. So the U18
Okay.
happened in September. It happened out in Florida, in
Right.
Sarasota, in 2 different venues, and Bradenton. So public did not participate in that points through the World Baseball Softball Federation tournament circuit if you don't participate. It's several points if you appear, but nonetheless, you have to show up to gain the point system. And Mexico is like the top team outside the United States at number 5 in the world.
Right.
U.S. is number 3. Taiwan is 2. Japan is 1. I mean, the Americas is just in deep regions, like Mexico, Colombia's coming up, Panama's coming up, Nicaragua's, here in the World Baseball Classic for the first time. And they've been a baseball country for 125 years. But the sport is only going to appear to the fan, or maybe the not as much casual fan, that, these tournaments are big. Scouts, national and cross checkers, they go to these games where they can watch it at the palm of their hands on certain stream capabilities. So this is hidden that, Mike Trout, he played in the Pan American Games in 2010. So this is the second time with Team USA. This is the first time with Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. So
right.
People don't know that these players play in historic tournaments because it's not marketed. It's not land out in a centralized deal. But bring it on. World Baseball Network's here.
Right.
We'll do whatever it takes to cover the U18s and the U23s as much as we can.
So speaking of a tournament that Major League Baseball has a problem marketing, will you be doing anything for the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, so we're accredited with the World Baseball Network, parcel of MLB credentials. So we got into the World Baseball Classic. We'll be in Miami for it. So March 11th to the 15th is the pool round of Pool D, and we'll cover those games. We'll cover the semifinal games, and then the championship games the 21st.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
We're accredited for that. We might have some lenient and other coverage with other federations. But yeah, we're here to landscape, the next Harry Fords for Great Britain.
Right.
It's going to be cool too. You're going to see top prospects like Deshaun Knowles get some exposure too for Great Britain. And yeah, keep looking up these guys. I mean, Martin Cervenka, he's a trailblazer player, and he's just playing over in the Czech Republic in their extra Liga league. So that's the thing about the World Baseball Classic. It's not just Major League Baseball. All these other countries have the product to bring, to a Major League field, to bring to where they're doing it in Tokyo, they're doing it in Taichung.
Yeah.
So, it's a big product enablement to state that our sport is big. It can be on this global stage, like soccer, like rugby, like cricket, like golf, like tennis, and
even like basketball, honestly.
Basketball, you have the commitment of players from the NBA playing in the Olympics, except other sector FIBA tournaments. Then it's like the second string of some guys in the NBA or the G League. But baseball has its magnitude to be so much overthrown as an Olympic sport. Like, I wish it was in Paris, but it's not.
Right.
Breakdancing.
Right.
The
Right. It's
international
ridiculous.
committee
It
chose
is a little silly, isn't it?
for baseball and softball.
Yeah, it's
But
terrible.
yeah, it's like, how does that make sense? But the French had a baseball federation since the 1920. Since 1920, they've
Did
had
they? Wow.
a governized baseball body, but nobody talks about it. You know, you don't see NBC Universal leak into something and say, "Oh, well, baseball and softball's out." You know, Ricardo
Right.
Fauci, what's the next? He's the president of the World Baseball Federation. What's the next move of baseball trying to bring all these products? I'm all a fan of certain games you can grow from the sport, like the World Baseball Softball Confederation. They're building a sport called Baseball 5. So it's kind of like handball, but there's like other players around the infield surrounding,
Right.
playing on a miniature, like some deal. But
Right.
there's rankings for it. But, you know, how is that going to grow if you're promoting e-gaming? So if you're standing in front of a screen, that's the contradictory of, are you putting them in international competition events that are going to have e-gaming? Yeah. So
Right.
the media doesn't talk about, from Major League Baseball side of things, what the World Baseball Softball Confederation is doing, but they get help from Major League Baseball. It's not like FIFA, where it's a free-for-all with how much they can allocate to the Premier Leagues, the top leagues in Europe, and so forth.
Yeah. Ostensibly, MLB is just a little bit less corrupt than FIFA as well.
Hopefully.
One would hope, you know.
Well, the Venezuela Caribbean series, I mean, that's a little bit of a push from the Caribbean Professional Confederation deal. So, like, that's like another thing about baseball. It's that, you know, if you want to influence the product more, right? And
Right.
have tourism, you're gonna have to put it in other countries that are applicable to the American market. I mean, us as Americans, we can't travel to Venezuela like that unless we were born
Right.
there, have a certain citizenship status. But you know, kudos to the people that were there covering. I mean, 2 stadiums, God bless. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have Uber. You know,
Right.
subways are a little unreliable, or you never know. I mean, if you know subway lines out there, and La Guardia and La Guerra and Caracas, kudos. But you know, it's a whole nother world to see in baseball. I mean, this could take you so much of other destinations. You'll have no idea what you run into next. But
Right.
I'm glad next year it's in Miami. World Baseball Network will be covering it, and it's going to be right before the Super Bowl in the late January, early February timeframe. So we don't know if it's 6 teams or back to 8. We're still in the midst of the confirmed news on that. But
Right.
baseball has, you know, its own intangibles. I mean, we're seeing it. You know, Cuba's got certain MLB guys. They're not, you know, holding hostage with their elite league Serie Nacional players. They're coming for blood. This World Baseball Classic, I mean, they were in the final in 2006 with all Serie Nacional players against the top players in the professional baseball and Ichiro Suzuki that Japan had.
Mhm.
But, you know, baseball's here. It's in our throne to go global. It's, you know, it has a different path than, you know, all the other sports I labeled before. It's only going to get bigger if you see the other pro leagues of how, you know, the not so norm of fans like myself see of these pro leagues as just a growing product for the game, honestly.
Yeah, it can be a little hard to get Americans to care about, like, not the major leagues. Like, even minor league baseball, even though a lot of these guys that you like, you can go to a minor league game and see the number 1 prospect in the sport. You go to that field, attendance is not going to be good. So it can be kind of difficult to get Americans to care about the minor leagues, let alone international baseball. So it, you know, like, and then that's only half the equation, right? Because you also have to get people in these other countries. Oh, hey, listen, I know you like soccer.
Yeah.
But why don't you watch the sport that has nothing to do with soccer? And, you know, at least for me, like, sports that don't have anything in common with baseball, a lot of the time I'm sitting there and I'm kind of like, I'd love to just be watching baseball instead right now. So
Yeah,
there's a lot to overcome in these other countries. And you mentioned Brazil. Brazil sounds like a good case study of this because we were talking to Baseball International last week, and something he mentioned is that they have a hard time getting over the hurdle of how into soccer Brazilians are. And the
yeah.
only place where they really seem to have any success with it is in Sao Paulo. And that's where like all of their MLB exports have come from. So it
Yeah.
seems like MLB has a marketing problem, as you know, we all know, and we brought up a couple times here. And with MLB kind of driving this internationalization process, it seems like that marketing problem is
It took too long. They're like the last of the party in this. That
Yeah.
what the NFL was doing with the London games, and
Mm-hmm.
you gotta play out some type of championship league format. I mean, the Players Association's got to buy into something, and I think the Japanese Players Association would agree too. That if you do produce a World Series, that's Japan versus the United States and the best of seven. Baseball
Right.
can evolve into a global parameter sport. But a lot of these owners, they want it for themselves. You see with the World Baseball Classic, they're holding these players accounts of being in the grapefruit and cactus league establishments. So,
Yeah.
and they're never going to like it either way. If it was in November, you can't win in this. You play through a crazy stretch of months. I mean, 8 months these guys are with each other.
Yeah.
No,
I get it with somebody like I want to say Jung Ho Gang, but that's not who it is. G-Man Choi. Somebody like G-Man Choi, I get it. Because when somebody misses, I mean, Choi, did he miss the whole season or just most?
Well, he had surgery over the offseason, so they basically said you have to stay here and recover.
You're right.
You can't go play, which is like
that.
It's annoying, but yeah, I understand it from a team perspective. But these guys who are just sort of like, I'd rather stay in my off-season routine. It's like, come on, man.
The worst is when the team basically leans on them and is like, we don't want you doing that. Like, we're gonna have a problem. It's like you can't stop them.
That's the thing. The World Baseball Softball Federation is the umbrella of the governing body of baseball softball. That's another thing you got to hold into account, that Major League Baseball wants you to have an option. If you want to play spring training, you could do that, or you have an option to play in a tournament that happens every 3 years.
Right.
It's not going to be like that in 2026. You can't opt end of somebody's declared deal going to this tournament of the World Baseball Classic.
Right.
It's finalized in its own turnout. It's going to be like FIFA, pretty much.
Yeah.
Meant to play. You won't get overthrown by Manchester United, Chelsea, or whoever. That's where it's going. And the promotion of the merchandise now for the first time is run by the federations of all the countries. It's not going to have the World Baseball Classic logo that you see in conditions.
Right.
That's another merchandise is going to be so separate outside of MLB.com. So go check out Italy's page, for their gear, Australia's website, and Japan's website. I mean, USA is going to be all spread out to the max.
Right. Well, Matt, this has been super fun. I've learned a lot, man. We're up against it, but how can people find you? What's the best way for them to follow you?
Yeah, so website is worldbaseball.com. URL key in all smart devices, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. And join in on WhatsApp. Much love of our community.
Yeah.
And love to bring in the fandemonium purpose of where our sport is going.
Matt, thanks again for coming on the show. That was really informative. I learned a lot. He's the kind of guy who just knows a lot about everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. And make sure to go give Matt a follow at Matty Talls on Twitter, and check out worldbaseball.com and his podcast, Baseball Without Borders. So Matt, thanks again for coming on. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Baseball Podcast.